Um, oh, it's always so surprising when it does that. Um, as you guys know, we had kind of a backlog of feedback we had taken in over the past year or so, that we were kind of waiting for this group to be stood up to start looking through. So that's kind of the source of these. The first one here, which is row number 2, it says place to provide feedback, positive and negative, about the applicant experience. We received feedback that people want to be able to give kudos to state workers, or about their experience, say what was easy, say what was hard. They wanted a place maybe in the One Online Portal, which, just to recap, was formerly called the applicant portal, through the One Online Portal to be able to give that sort of feedback. There is a challenge with this that we need to keep in mind as we're thinking about this one, and it is that we would have to have staff to review all of this feedback that we are taking in. We would also need to decide if we want it to be such that only people who are logged in could leave that feedback, so it could not be anonymous, or if we want to allow anonymous feedback. Of course, understanding that if feedback is anonymous, but they're asking for help or asking a question or need us to follow up, and it is anonymous, we would not be able to do so. So this one has a couple layers of complexity. This is technically not a giant ask, but operationally, this has a lot of implications that we need to consider if, adding this is the best use of our time in order to receive those kudos and feedback, positive and negative. The next one, number 3, we discussed this before. I think we discussed this on July 28th. It was a pop-up asking if applicants would like to go paperless if they have not already opted to do so. We would be putting this pop-up once they have already logged into their online account. So they're logged in, and it would, if they are not currently paperless, it would say, hey, would you like to go paperless? We will still mail you some notices, such as renewal notices, and it just gives people the option to do so. This actually came from within state employees, because we are struggling with, first of all, just mailing people too much stuff. People are receiving a lot of letters from us, but we were also struggling during the pandemic with getting access to, oddly enough, envelopes. We were having a shortage of envelopes to mail. So we were really looking at, okay, how can we move people who may be interested in receiving their notices through their One Online account rather than receiving in paper. So I drafted up some draft language here. This was just me putting something on the screen. If you guys do decide that, asking people if they want to go paperless would be a good move that we want to make, we can adjust this language, pull it apart, rewrite it. I'm very open to this. But I just, had to draft something to give you an idea of what it would look like. So that was our second one that we discussed back on the 28th. We brought it back again if we want to explore it a little bit deeper. The third one, actually, Angel, can you go to pick 20 for me? Because I feel like this one really does need a picture. Okay, so when somebody already has an account and they've already applied for benefits and they are receiving benefits, but they need to tell us about a change that's happening, when they get into their One Online Portal and they're going to the appropriate page to report that change, they will see like this summary grid that you can see right here on the screen. It says self-employment income summary. Actually, Angel, can you zoom in a little bit more? Just so I can make sure people can really see that. And then scroll down a little bit, please. Thank you. So you can see that it says self-employment income summary, and then it has a couple of different income types. These are all income types that people have told us about before, and they may potentially want to report a change on. However, as you can see, there's no instructions telling them how to do that. We just give them a pencil and an X under actions, and we're not really telling them what to do. So this is causing a lot of confusion when people need to report changes. They don't know how to do it. So this change is really saying, hey, do we want to add some instructions underneath where it says self-employment income summary that kind of describes how the pencil and the X work? There are other places in the system where we have already developed language that we can look at again and decide if we like that same language, we just want to reuse it, or we can start from scratch. Again, if this is something that people see value in moving forward with this change, we have the opportunity in this group for you guys to give feedback on exactly how we explain to people what the pencil means, what the X means, and how they report those changes that they are required to report to us. And then let's see. Ooh, this is a challenging one. So within the application, we have a screen where we ask individuals if they are US citizens, and if not, we ask them some questions about their status to determine if they would meet what we call non-financial non-citizen criteria, which is a big fancy way of saying rules about who can receive benefits when they are not US citizens. So one of the ways in our policy that people who wouldn't otherwise be eligible to receive benefits from ODHS when they're a non-citizen based on their status is if they have a particular immigration status called, Angel, can you scroll down a little bit? There it is. The status is called approved for, oh, it's so blurry. Approved for withholding of removal or deportation being withheld. And that is like literally what the legal term is. But we've received feedback back that, hey, maybe that's a little intimidating to people. So we wanted to bring to this group, if we want to, work with immigration advocates, immigration partners to determine if there's a better way we can phrase this that's less alarming to individuals, because terms like removal and deportation are very triggering and can be very upsetting, especially if that is not a status that you have and therefore you don't know what this statement means. So really we're asking if the group wants to take on the work of digging a little bit more into it and seeing if there's a different or softer way we can phrase this with it still making sense to individuals who have this status.
And Samantha, I just want to make a quick mention that the version of the spreadsheet that went out on Friday had the wrong picture for that PIC 31. So if you're using that file, it was just the wrong picture. It was a duplicate of something else. But the one that was sent out today at 12:35 has the one that we're showing you right now. So
awesome, great, thanks, James. So the very next one. Okay, so when an individual is submitting an application, reporting a change, or renewing their benefits, so they're already logged into their one online portal, and they're taking one of those actions to either apply for benefits or renew their benefits, or they have to report a change. For SNAP, cash assistance, and ERDC, we do not determine eligibility. We don't say whether or not somebody is eligible or not for those programs right when they're applying. I'm calling this out really specifically because for some of our medical programs, the system does determine the eligibility right when they apply. It's real time. But for our SNAP, our cash assistance, and our ERDC, it does not. We heard from users that they wanted the ability to upload supporting documents that they know we're going to need. For example, if you're applying for your SNAP benefits and you are working and you're somewhat familiar with the department, you've ever been on benefits before, you have a friend who's on benefits, or you've heard, right? You might know that we're going to need pay stubs. People wanted to be able to upload those when they submitted their application to save time so that when they do get to do their intake with the worker and get that decision about whether or not they're eligible, the worker doesn't have to wait for them to give more information. It's all already attached. However, when we were writing this particular screen, we maybe made it sound a little too strong. We made it sound a little bit like they have to provide those documents now. And maybe some of the documents we would make people concerned or not want to follow up, such as proof of legal immigration statuses. Very wording that really didn't land the way we had hoped it would land. So there's been a lot of ask, especially from our OHP certified medical assistant community partners, that we relook at the wording of this screen to, again, soften it up, make sure that people understand this is optional to upload at this time. It is not required to upload. This is if you know that you have something that you want to attach, but also to remove terms that might be stressful for people or make people feel like they do not want to continue with pursuing benefits. And of course, we want people to pursue benefits. We want to give benefits to people who are eligible, and we don't want anything to make them concerned about what the outcome would be as far as checking with immigration or anything like that out of their application. So yeah, the ask here is, do we want to take a look at this screen and work through how we state this screen better to soften it up? Just some language changes on this one. So row 7, there is a lot of confusion throughout the system. We ask for income amounts and expense amounts and tax credit amounts in such a way that it is not clear to people that we kind of want the average. We know that these numbers fluctuate through from month to month, from pay period to pay period, or benefit period to benefit period, expense period to expense period, right? Like if I'm receiving a tax credit as an educator, my expenses may be higher in September than they are in March, for example. So where appropriate, this is asking if we want to add some explanatory language about providing average amounts. So you look over 6 months, look over a year, what are your average expenses for these incomes, and just kind of adding a little more explanatory text to help people know how to enter the data into their application when they're applying. Row 54, we have heard you. Lots of people complaining that the timeout time for the one online portal is only 10 minutes. And sometimes if you're digging around, like looking at your paycheck stubs and you're trying to find information so you can answer the questions as accurately as possible, 10 minutes is not long enough. For security reasons, we don't want to go above 15. I actually might need to check on this one because I don't know. We also have some federal regulations. I think I've mentioned this before in this meeting that limit or set like security minimums. I do not believe we could ever go above a 15-minute timeout, but we are asking that the one online portal be moved up from 10 minutes to 15 minutes to align with workers get 15 minutes in their portal. And we'd like to have a little bit more time as well, because sometimes it takes more than 10 minutes to find something and do all the, entering the information on the screen. So just looking at one of those changes. And 9. So, this one's a little bit complex. So I will please ask that if I start talking over people's heads, you guys can jump in and don't bother raising your hand, just unmute and say, Sam, less tech speak. I encourage and beg that you do that. So when a person is on a case, for example, If James and I are on a SNAP case together, James is nodding his head because I've used this analogy like 4 times in the past week. If James and I are on a SNAP case, we're roommates, we purchase and prepare food together. One of us has to be what's called the head of household. And that's just the person who fills out the application and is listed first, basically, on the case, right? One of us would be the head of household. So let's say for this, I'm going to be our head of household for James and I. But James is a grown independent adult. He's not a tax dependent on me. He's not reliant on me in any way. He also needs medical assistance. James can actually create currently a one online account so that he can both see our SNAP benefits together, but also apply for medical benefits as a head of household for his medical case that I'm not on because we're not related. He's a separate adult. We're just roommates and we have to be together for SNAP. So understanding that James can have within his one online portal, he can have 2 case numbers attached. He can have our combined SNAP case and his separate medical case number, and there'll be different case numbers. He might get a notification, a text message saying, hey, you have a notice in your one online account. And he'll log in. If he goes into he logs into his account and looks at the case where I'm head of household, he won't see any messages because he's not a head of household. He's just a case member. And this is causing some confusion because people are like, well, I got a notice that I need to look at my message center, but I can't. So we want to add some text to that screen when it loads in that context that says, hey, if you have another case, if you got this notice or message and you have another case number, flip to your other case number and check there, just to kind of give people a little more guidance around where to go to find the information they're looking for. The next one, this one I actually got frustrated with a couple of weeks ago. I'll be really honest. So
Hey, can I just pause for a moment? Because that was a big brain, a lot, take a breath. Any questions about these last few? People...
Other than being very complicated, and if you are a 17-year-old youngster who is living with his mom, but his dad is declaring him on his taxes, so therefore all the food stamps are going to dad, but who's head of his household? This is complicated.
It is so complicated, Judith. You are not wrong. There's a lot of challenges in being in an integrated system where the rules from the feds do not align, and we're just trying to make it work for people.
Thank you for that comment, Judy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Judy. You're not wrong. You are so right. This is complicated. This is complicated.
Why not put a message in there that you have to be a certain age to apply for food stamps?
We actually don't have that sort of regulation, George. Anybody can apply for food stamps. However, if we have somebody who is, now I'm getting into policy, so I'll put on I haven't been an eligibility worker in almost 10 years, so my information is a little outdated. Please take it with a grain of salt and know that I'm probably only about 60% right. But I believe that if you are living with your parents, and you are under the age of 22, you have to be on their food stamp case and you cannot apply for food stamps without them. But let's say you're a 13-year-old who has left the family home because of a variety of issues that could impact 13-year-olds where they would be living on the streets, being independent. We want them to be able to apply for food stamps because we don't want hungry kids.
But the thing is that, George, is that 13-year-old does not have the capacity to understand that because dad, who is living separately, is claiming little Joe on his taxes, the food stamps cannot be sent to little Joey or his mommy who he's living with, because dad is the person who is supposedly paying the taxes and getting the tax breaks. Food stamps go to dad. And that's hard for a 13, 14, 15-year-old to understand. It's hard for mom to understand when she can't feed her kid. But okay, I complicate the water. I'm sorry. I bow out, George.
And this, of course, could be set up to where there is a divorce decree that says that if the father has claimed the child, but living with the mother should have the right to claim food stamps for that child.
No, as long as dad is getting the tax break for having Joey on his taxes, can't do it. Separation of family.
I think you might be conflating, Judy, Medicaid and SNAP, because Medicaid cares about tax filing, but SNAP does not. So little Joey would have to be on dad's medical, but not necessarily on dad's SNAP. Mom could claim SNAP for him, but that does cause a complexity, right? Where then mom has little Joey on for SNAP, and it's a different case number from dad's Medicaid. And it gets very messy and very complex. It gets complex immediately. And so if little Joey has, created his own account, he might get a message that he has a notice in one account and it's actually, or in one case number, and it's actually in the other. It just causes a lot of complications. We just want to put some text on the screen to explain, hey, if you don't see that message here, go check if you have another case number. It might be there.
Thank you for that clarification.
So the next one, as I mentioned, I ran into this personally recently, and it frustrated me. But we've also heard this from clients. This was client feedback. So currently system functionality is such that passwords for the one online account expire every 90 days. So you go to log in, right? You're at your login screen, you type in your email address, you type in your password, and you hit log in, and it says, oh, your password expired. You need to reset your password. Okay. It takes you to another screen where you where you enter a new password, you confirm it, right? Because just like every website anymore, it's enter it 2 times to confirm that it matches and that you typed it correctly. You hit submit and it says, yay, your password is updated. And then it goes nowhere and it does nothing. And you're like, cool, how do I get back to log in? We forgot to design that part. Whoops. So this change is suggesting that we provide a link such that once somebody gets that confirmation that their password has updated, they can click it, they can be sent back into that login screen. So they can log in with their new password and continue about their business rather than having to go up to the bar in their browser and retype one.oregon.gov and start from scratch, just to make it a little bit easier on people's life and a little bit of a seamless, nicer experience. The next one is allow users to archive old messages. So when people are looking at their message center, and that is where notices are sent, and notices are sent there, by the way, notices are sent there whether or not they are paperless. So even if you are receiving paper notices, you have not opted into being paperless. Even if you're receiving paper notices, when an individual logs into their one online account, either through the mobile app or the one online portal, the website, they can see every notice we've sent them back to when they came into the one system. The one system is, oh gosh, Mandy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're at year 6 or 7 now for the one online portal, I believe.
Yep, I believe you are correct.
Yep. So they can have 6 or 7 years of notices. And, sometimes people want to get those out of the way. The original suggestion we received was to delete them. However, if people delete those notices, there is no way that if they needed them later, that a worker could put them back in their message center. So we were thinking maybe there's some archive, like a hide, ability to hide old messages, so they don't have to look at them all the time. They can just keep out what they want to see commonly and kind of archive away, kind of like you do in your email, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, I'll put these in a folder so I don't have to look at them all the time and they're not gumming up my inbox. We were looking at the possibility of adding some functionality like that. The next one, add a notice stating that passwords expire every 90 days. I believe that, George, this was something you called out as, hey, it's an issue that we're having to redo these passwords every 90 days and people don't know. It's very confusing. I actually had the opportunity last week to work with some of our partners and James at the Beaverton Self-Sufficiency Office. And it was a question that came up a lot, actually. How frequently do passwords need to be refreshed, redone, updated? Is there any way we can show this? So we were looking at a couple of different opportunities for places where we could say something like, hey, just so you know, passwords have to be reset every 90 days. You need to pick a new one. So people aren't surprised when they get the message saying, hey, it's time to change your password. We thought of a couple of different spots, one being the sign-in screen. Sorry, if you can scroll back up, Angel. Thank you. The sign-in screen, we thought maybe we could put something here, but this screen is honestly a little bit cluttered already, and we don't want that message to be lost. So another place we thought maybe we could put it is on the change password screen. If you scroll down, Angel, maybe we could put it here so that when people are on this page, they get that reminder like, oh yeah, every 90 days I'm going to have to do this. So they know it's not a surprise, and we're just getting that information out there. So it's not as confusing and upsetting for people when they try to log in and they can't. And the last, but certainly not least, we released a mobile app, Oregon One Mobile. In the first iteration, the first version of it went out in April. The second version went out in June. It is significantly updated as far as look and feel. And as far as us having lessons learned from all of the trouble we've had with the One Online Portal, the website, we've really fixed a lot of those issues in the Oregon One Mobile app. One of the things we did in the Oregon One Mobile app was we changed up the way that accounts are created. Right now, if you go to one.oregon.gov, as you can see, Angel is showing, there are 3 buttons, like right down at the bottom by the scroll bar. One says apply for benefits, one says manage account, and one says authorize representative. And you have to pick the correct button to create the correct account type. And if you mess it up, you you have to call the EP technical team, Mandy's team, and they have to disable your account so you can start all over again. And people often don't know that they picked the wrong one and messed it up until they have started using their account. So that is a huge, huge barrier and bummer. About 2 years ago, we went in and we added a bunch of text to the first screen that they see. Actually, can you scroll back up a little bit, Angel, please? So this one that says setting up your account, we added a bunch of text to this. And this is the first page they see when they're creating their account. But as we know, people skim, people don't read it, or they may just not understand it. It might just not be phrased in a really optimal way for understanding. So when we were looking at the Oregon One Mobile app, we actually changed up the whole way we did this. Can you scroll down, please, Angel? And then a little bit to the left. So when you're looking at the mobile app, under that login button, there's one that actually says create account. There's one button, no more 2 buttons, no more like go through and pick what you need to do. And then we've added some more descriptions to who can create an account. when they can create an account, that sort of information, what they need to create an account. And once they've read through that, they click next and they go and they get much better descriptions about choosing the type of account that best describes what they're going to do. If they're creating it as an individual, so they're applying for themselves or people in their household, or if they're creating as an authorized representative where they are creating an account to apply on behalf of somebody else who needs their help, such as being an authorized representative for your aging parents who need that sort of assistance, or being an authorized representative for your adult child who's very busy at work and just wants their parent to help them manage their benefits. Or if you have a friend, a neighbor who's asked you to help them, that's an authorized representative. So we've really cleared up the way that this account creation happens to make it much more clear. And we're seeing, we can actually look at the numbers. We're seeing that people are understanding better which type of account they need to click, they need to choose, just because it's much less text. It's a single entry point. It's working out a lot better. So what we're suggesting with this work item is that we look at ways we can make the web look and feel more like the mobile app, where it's one entry button, and they select within from significantly simplified descriptions of the work. I think that is all of the options we were bringing to the group this time, and I'm sure you guys would like to take a little break and mull over them. Take a little break from listening to me talk about them anyway, and mull over them. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
And I hope.
Yes.
Someone spoke?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Samantha about some clarification. It was for picture 31, I believe, but I forget which row it was. Yeah, what exactly you're actually trying to ask here, I apologize because I do not even know. So if you could give us some clarification, and maybe that would help as we kind of think about rewording.
Yeah, absolutely, Sydney. So without getting too policy driven, because I'm not a policy person, I haven't been a worker in a decade, and I was never a policy analyst. I'm a system analyst for sure. But my understanding is that if an individual has come to the country with certain immigration statuses, I think one of them is LPR, which is legal permanent resident, but they have not been in the country for a certain amount of time, they would not be eligible to apply for public assistance such as Medicaid or SNAP or other benefits. However, some of the policy programs have a, what do I want to say, like an asterisk by that, right? Where if you have a certain visa status of, I think the two of them are called withholding of removal is one of them, and deportation being withheld is the other one. If you have either of those statuses, we actually ignore all of the other rules about when you're allowed to apply as a non-citizen applicant, and we would make you eligible. So this is kind of like it makes people eligible who otherwise wouldn't. But those two terms are actually like statuses, the technical name for the legal status they have. And like you, Sydney, a lot of people don't know what this is. So having those words is a little like, like shocking. Withholding of removal, and anytime you say deportation, it's a little, like, oh, is this, people don't understand that they're like legal statuses. So.
Yeah, that makes much more sense. Yeah, the wording is weird, but now that you explain it, I mean, that makes total sense, but I can understand how it can be alarming as well. So thanks for going over that.
Absolutely.
And April, I see your comment and talk about that. I just want to mention too, this is an example, this one about the legal statuses. We'll also want to run that by the refugee policy team, and I should have done that before we had this meeting to make sure we have a good wording. But if we're going to change it, we want to get the wording that everyone here wants, but also make sure it's legal and it's not going to be ambiguous when it comes to federal oversight as well. But April, you want to talk about your question?
The text message question?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, is there a way to do that? I know you have
Sure.
to opt in for text messages. But I was wondering if, because when I've gotten them, it's like, hey, you have a message. I'm on, cool. I gotta log in and remember my password, which has definitely expired. So even if there was a way, if there's not a way to remind people on the login page that their password expires every 90 days, if there was just like some sort of red text that says, hey, your password expires in 30 days. Do you want to change it? Or something like that.
April, that's actually a great idea. As you were speaking, I kind of thought of two ways we could go about it if we want to head down this path. But yeah, updating our text message alerts is an option that we can explore a little bit deeper.
Because
Good
at least on
call.
the text message alert, there wouldn't be any links or anything like that necessarily. And
Yeah.
they would have to, of course, have opted into the text messages where if they're in a unsafe situation, they may not have done that. But hopefully the majority of the people are in safe situations and feel comfortable opting in for texts. That could just say your password to the one system expires in 90 days. Click here to change it now. Or 30 days or 45.
That's a great option that I think we can definitely explore if we choose to dig in and work on that one deeper.
Samantha?
Hey,
Uh,
George.
I believe that April's idea will work. There's another end to this that you might want to look into, you and James, and that is scammers has been trying to, they can go into text messaging too into somebody's phone. So if that was to happen, like letting someone know that their password is about ready to expire, I think that if a message was to say, this is the state of Oregon reminding you.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I would have to go in and look at the inventory, but I believe we do identify ourselves as the state of Oregon when we're sending those text messages. We also use a short code designated to us by the FCC, which adds a little bit more, what do I want to say, like, it makes people feel a little bit more confident because they're getting it from that 5-digit code rather than like 503-333-3333, right? Like that feels very sketchy. So using that short code is something we've been doing too. But yeah, I'll double check. George, that's a great call. I will double check that our inventory is opening by letting people know that we're the state of Oregon.
Because they're not just getting into people's phone numbers on cell phones, but they're also getting into people's text messages.
Mm-hmm.
How they're displaying themselves as per se, and that's, it can be a concern.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I've heard of that issue coming up and concerns coming up from other states as well. So let's definitely keep a note of that and make sure that as we dig into this one, we're double checking and triple checking that we're making sure people can feel confident that they're being contacted by the state of Oregon.
Samantha, I have a question for you. When we send out text, there's no links in them though. It just tells you to go to your account, right?
Yes, that's correct, James.
Okay, well, the next thing, as we take in this a lot of information, we were going to also then discuss what some potential options for how we'll prioritize. One thing I should have known at the beginning, and by the way, I started the recording late, so all we've done is recap previous weeks and sort of dove in here. But we're not going to make a decision at this meeting. This was an introduction. If you need more information, like I said, she stepped away, but I appreciate her comment about creating some options. These are the types of input that we'll need in order to bring back at the next meeting. So we'll actually get a vote in. But I'm thinking, why don't we take our 5-minute break now, and we'll come back. And if you want to continue discussion over these options, we can, but we'll then just dive into some of the options that we've looked at and how this group will prioritize our improvement suggestions. So let's plan on coming back at 2:57 or thereabouts. And we'll see you shortly. Just in time, and Rosetta came back just in time for us to go on our 5-minute break. Look at the time. Let's, we can reconvene. Hope you all got your water and other needs met. So, any other comments about these 12 choices? I was hoping we could get them all on the screen, but I'm not sure if that's possible. Oh boy. Oh, it just let's work on that.
Hold on, it's coming.
Excellent.
I don't know why I did that.
And Rosetta, I saw that you had a good item. Yeah, we don't, a good comment. We don't even really have to table, we're not going to be making a big vote right now or anything. We can, we just need, well, consider it and things that you want more information on. So that's an example of, let's get some more information on that that particular item. And let's see if, yeah, so it's the one that with pick 31, it's in row 5 on the left side. So yeah, we can just make sure we come back at next meeting with that request. And if there's any other similar requests on any of these items, then we can do that as well.
I have a question because I feel like sometimes when they're looking at messages, it also gets really like convoluted because some people say like they try to find their old determinations and there's no separation between a determination and then a notice to renewal, like all the messages are together. So if it could be separated, whether it's like a reminder message or a renewal, because sometimes with families, when they need to pull like determination of SNAP, it's hard to feed through all of those messages.
So it's sort of categorize the different
Yes.
messages.
Yeah.
That is, I think, yeah, that's something we need to take down. Sort of like it goes with the archiving in terms of the messaging.
Well, yeah, well, and it'll be easier, like if you wanted to archive renewals, it'd be a lot easier, like put that to the back, because sometimes for some benefits, we need proof of SNAP to make them categorically eligible. So I'll say, hey, just get me your SNAP. So they're going through all of these like old messages and going through, so especially if they have multiple benefits to find the one they need. So they're kind of like digging through a pile. So if it could be categorized between like reminder, renewal, determination, and then they can archive reminders or archive this, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I am following what you're saying. Yeah, I like it. I think we should get it added to our list of suggestions to review.
I think as far as placing the provide feedback positive and negative about application experience, that should be maybe placed either on paper through mail or send a link where they can go actually to our website to do that.
Or what if they place that on the actual case itself or on what they're applying for? Because sometimes you'll have like, sometimes you guys apply and you said, you'll automatically get medical and that's not an issue. But then they put in an application for SNAP and ERDC, and there could be a certain point or certain part of the application or benefits where they had a hard time or they didn't get a response from a caseworker or they didn't understand what they needed to turn in. So then they were denied and they have to appeal, that whole process. So maybe like they can click on the benefit they applied to in that process, because I feel like it gets kind of separated, correct?
not sure if I have my complete head around this, but Samantha, do you have it?
I think I'm understanding. I think when we're talking about that level of complexity, we might, not to nerd out too hard on you guys, but so we have contractually, we have a difference between what we're calling work items, and they can be up to 50 hours of work, and then change requests, which are big, like anything from, adding a new screen to adding, when we added Healthier Oregon to the system, that was a change request, right? And when we're talking about that level of complexity, we might be moving into the change request realm, but I don't want to say, oh no, we can't do it. We can't change requests, and that, just understanding that it would be a larger and more long-term goal than work items where we're trying to schedule out like changes for October and November. So just if we understand that would be a bigger thing and it would take longer, I think it's something we can explore a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll be talking about these different things here coming up too, but I'm going to go ahead and transition this to, okay, well, there's your 12 items. You can add anything in the comments as we move on to some different things. But, if you want more information on them, if you want to share which one's your favorites, that's great. But, or things we shouldn't be bothering with, that would be good too. But like I said, we'll make our more finalish decisions at the next meeting. But one of the considerations that we're running into is like, well, how do we choose among these 12? How does a group of 10, 12 people make what is hopefully a consensus, close to a consensus decision around this? And so we were looking at some of the different types of voting possibilities. So, like one bit of context to be aware of is we'll have 3, 4, sometimes maybe even 5 things that we can submit to of these smaller items that we can make changes on. And so I think Melissa, were you going to share your screen? Yeah. So we can review some of these items, and I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you. Hold on, I get my screen shared here, and hopefully it's the right one. I'll do that. Can y'all see that okay? Oh,
A little
all I
small,
see is
but
your
yeah.
chat. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Oh, that's better?
Yeah.
Okay, so we developed 3 different options, which was our best brainstorming for this morning on ways to prioritize, starting with these 12 options. So this first one goes through prioritizing like your top 5 options. So within here, you can then select which 5 are your favorite ones. Everybody can get a vote for their top 5. Maybe that's like 4. And then that would then go into a poll to where we can look at to see, not now because I didn't give myself permission, but to where you can get where you can see, sorry, hold on, it's making me relog in. We'll then go into a thing where we can see who voted or which option had the most votes, and we can move it forward from there. So there's that option. Any questions, thoughts on that one before I move to the next one?
Is
All right.
this,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to visualize, is this the one we're working on?
Yeah, these are exactly the same questions or the same options that we just went through.
Okay.
Okay, so the next option would be very similar, again, with your top 5. being able to prioritize of these top 5, which one do I like the best? So again, selecting 5 that are your favorites, and then being able to put check marks on the one that's your most favorite to the one that's your least favorite. With 5, how did I set this one up? 5, if you select all 5, that's your most favorite, and if you select 1, that's your least favorite. So then that from there, we could then see however many 1 received the most votes, 2 received the most popular votes, and then could prioritize from there.
Or you
And I
could
would-
not
go-
vote for something at all, I would assume then too.
Yeah, if you didn't want to vote for number 6, you could just skip number 6 and then vote for number 7. Again, with the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for your top 5.
Yeah, but is that gonna confuse you guys?
No, it'll populate it for us automatically, so that way we'll know however many people selected number 7 with a 5, and then however many selected number 4 with or number 7 with a 4, or number 7 with a 3 or 2 or a 1, or not at all. Thoughts on that one or questions?
So we're just ranking them 1 through 5.
Yeah, correct.
So
All right.
what if someone just puts 5 check marks for 1, 2, 3, and start going down the list, all 5 for all 5 check marks?
Well, you could, but we would hope not, because that would mean that you wanted them all implemented right now, and that's not possible.
It's been funny.
Yeah, so
It
we
might
want
be-
to stick to, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
You keep going.
I was gonna say, we want to try to stick to having the top 5, so the top 5 options, and then with the vote of which one's your favorite to which one's your least favorite of those top 5. All right, and then I have one more option, which is very similar to the last one, but with numbers instead. Again, selecting your top 5 options with 1 being your favorite and 5 being your least favorite. So you're gonna go through here and just give it a score of a 1 through 5 as opposed to the little radio buttons. Questions on this one?
I wouldn't say a question, but maybe a comment like not interested, or like, so then you guys can see if there's certain changes that we're just like it should be tabled to the bottom or back or something, or that makes sense.
Yeah, so what we'll do is if it doesn't have a vote, we'll table it to the next time. Just keep it on that list and it can get a vote the next time. My problem is that it only lets me have 1 option for voting. So if we want to put a comment underneath it, I could add a comment section, but it'll be numbered as, so like if I put a comment section under number 6, it'd be numbered as number 7. So I can either do the voting or I can do a comment. It won't let me do both, unfortunately. Or at least I don't know how. So if maybe somebody else knows how, we can figure it out.
I mean, and comments can be set in separately as well.
Mhm.
As part of the discussion. Yeah, I almost imagine, in our discussion, people can, in a sense, lobby for things and say, this other one is not a big deal, amongst each other as well. You don't have to be anonymous in your positions.
Mhm.
If we were all in a room together, one of the classic ways to do voting, and maybe some of you have experienced this, it's where you get like a few dots, 5 or 6 little stickers, and you just put them on the thing you like. And one thing I like about that is that if you really like something, you could use up all your dots on one thing and just ignore the rest too. So it allows this sort of weighted voting, which is another version of this second one, this middle one that Melissa has too.
Mhm.
But it's, yeah, it's, I don't know, it's just a little more physical, and getting to George's question, you know, there's not an ability to just someone to accidentally or purposefully just vote a ton for everything.
What you could do, even if you wanted to right now, is anyone who's on their computer, you could bring back up the spreadsheet. And if you click, you know, set right now at the top of my screen, it says I'm viewing Melissa's screen, view options. You can actually annotate or draw on the screen and everyone can see it.
Mhm.
So like I'm gonna circle these and everyone should be able to see that yellow incredible circle that I drew. So everybody could just do a tally mark if we wanted to also.
That is really interesting.
And you can save it for later as well.
I just added a check mark.
Or we can just, yeah, just do a stamp.
Mhm. So if we wanted to do the voting like you were describing, James, in person, you can use it that way. I forgot about that feature. Thank you, April.
This is why we need you guys, because we don't think of these things.
And if we didn't want to vote in this session, I believe in the like setup of the Zoom meeting, you can like initiate a poll.
Mhm.
And we can all vote right there, but it would have to be, I think, prior to the meeting starting.
Yeah, I've unfortunately I'm the only one with the license, so I'd be setting it up, but it's maybe April, you have some insight on this. If we have the bargain basement version of Zoom, and so it's just allowing me one choice in the polls. You can't vote multiple times for something. And so the way I was thinking of it is like, you're literally, you know, if everyone gets 5 votes, then I'd have to repeat, okay, choose one among the 12. That's question 1. Choose one among the 12, question 2, choose one among 12, question 3,
Yeah.
and so on.
Well, it might be better to annotate because you can type in right here. So I could put AP and then AP here, and I could just put my name on like my top 3.
Write a comment.
And then I can't make it go away, so.
Any other comments, ideas on this? I mean,
Are we bringing you to the Zoom side and away from the team side?
hey, this helps, yeah. By the way, how do you save it then? If oh, you just hit, there's a save button. Yeah, got it. Okay. Are people interested in doing this type of annotation then? Is that confusing? I know some people are having trouble with their screen today too. Would that be a concern going forward? Or would, you know, the benefit of having it as a form is something you could do outside the meeting as well.
Well, I'm okay with this, but with those marks that she presented, I don't think my computer can make those marks. Like,
So
the-
like the stamp, for instance.
like the green check mark there, you see?
Yeah.
The check marks.
So you should just be able to go where the screen is. On the top, it says view options. Do you see view options on the top of the screen?
Yeah,
Click on that, and then you're gonna see the third option is annotate. You're gonna select annotate, and then it'll say mouse, text, draw, stamp, arrow, eraser. So if like April was saying text, you can click and I'll say VB and there's my VB.
Okay,
Or you can stamp it.
okay.
George, you make me feel better if you put a stamp on this page.
If I don't mess up. Well, I tried. Maybe I'm not doing it right.
Are we just trying to figure out?
Oh, there it is.
Are we just trying to figure out how to come to consensus on these topics and everything and how strongly or how unstrongly that we feel about them? Are we just trying to figure out a way to gather the data after the fact of everybody?
I think it's more, consensus would be nice, but I think that would take too long. And so, yeah, we're just figuring out a way to compile votes to get a sense of where the group is.
I think I would like just to suggest if everybody got their own individual and then we rated them how we felt, and then at the end it gathers to you guys and you guys are able to tally and vote from there. So it's like everybody has their complete own voice, not swayed from anybody else's, and if everybody's just individually filling it out and then it all gets back to you guys, the data, and then you guys can kind of tally up what was, prioritize them from there possibly.
Yeah, that's exactly the idea we're looking at. Yeah.
I think for that reason that the Microsoft Forum will be the best way, because when you view the results later on, you'll see them as like pie graphs, you'll see them as like bar charts, and you'll be able to see which ones got the most votes.
That's true.
I think that way it would tally and then show us all what order of importance kind of everybody ranked among, and then maybe from there we can dissect maybe the top one or two or something, and then everybody can have their commentary on maybe those two and decide what we're going to move forward with or something.
Yeah. Melissa, can we see the first option again?
Yep.
Yeah, the problem, I like this in its simplicity, but the problem is you're not weighting different votes. Someone wants to rank something higher than something else.
I guess it would just be the honor system.
So we could start here. Everybody vote for their top 5, take that, and then from there we could rank them in priority order if we need to do that, or we could figure out other ways.
Yeah, and if you wanted to, you could just add another question on here for people to enter their name. And then you can see that everyone voted, and
this one will populate your email addresses for me. But we could do names too, because that does make it easier.
Yeah.
So what is the other 14 people's opinions we haven't heard from?
Well, unfortunately, I can't believe it. Last meeting, someone said maybe we should go to 2 hours, and I was like, well, I don't know, but boy, it's really this time is really an issue because we're already near the end of the meeting. We had a couple more things to go through. But George, I really appreciate you saying that, because I would love to hear from Judy and Sydney and Ruth and Marlo. Absolutely.
Well, everybody on this committee all have a voice, and
Yes, we do.
so what do you think, Judith?
I think we should go for it. Let's get started.
For this one, for the, just have the top 5 and then we'll sort it out from there.
I like it. I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll clean this up and work on it, and thank Melissa for putting these options together.
You've got a note here that says Rosetta likes option B, Form B.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh. And then Samantha says, get it added to our list. Gotta make sure everybody has that voice. Some people just like to type it in.
Okay, so in our last few seconds, minute or so, there was two other things that I'll just briefly plug. One is in the agenda that went out, there's a link to a form. And we can put it in the chat too, so you have that. But what we was hoping to spend a little bit of time was this flyer that is the beginnings of explaining how this process is. And if Angel or Melissa, you can bring up the flyer.
I'm gonna
This-
bring it. Give me 1
yeah.
second.
This flyer went also came to you at 12:35 from Angel today. And the idea, the audience for it is the general public, but it talks about the work of this committee. And it needs work. It's just a start, but it traces the progress when you're going to use that form that's linked that I mentioned just a moment ago. Thank you, Melissa, for putting that in.
I'm
It starts
having
with,
sorry.
it's okay. It starts with,
I
okay,
have it, Angel.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
so it starts with the form, and then we go to this committee's work. But I think a lot of you are interested, well, what the heck happens after we do our work? Well, this very small looking form, which hopefully will make it bigger, is, it's walking a really quick overview because there's a lot of testing and things that need to go on. But like I said, the first box, someone's submitting the idea using that form that's linked in the chat and in the agenda. And, we put them in an internal spreadsheet. Then this committee considers them. And then we have two tracks there. Whoops.
Hold on a second, James. I got it. I'm getting it bigger for you.
Great.
There we go.
And then there's oh, here we go. So it's where we started. We're documenting it. Go ahead and scroll down. And this is where we are, the committee members reviewing it. And then there's two tracks. There's the one on the left, the work items. This is most of the things we're talking about. The things that you guys are thinking about, these bigger items that Samantha was talking about, we gotta figure out how to describe that because it's something of a different track. The next real open date for change requests is I shudder to say this, but it's October of next year. There's just so many big requests that are jamming up the line right now. And hopefully we get time to talk about what a lot of these big things are. But, and so one thing to know before anything goes in the system, there has to be a lot of testing. We can't stick something in that's going to cause the system to crash. So there is a lot of testing. Deloitte does it work. We check it. There's another check. There's a few steps. So it would be interesting to think about how to present all those steps. But it's basically a lot of checking and testing. And then, we get this tracker that's will hopefully make public, is updated and it's live for people. So yeah, we're We don't have enough time today, unfortunately, to talk about what needs to be added to this. But please send us emails, send us ideas. And if anyone else is interested in joining the next week's planning meeting, let me know. We're going to go ahead and schedule it. And I know George is interested, so we'll get that email situation figured out. And we probably should think about having a 2-hour meeting as well. So I hope this felt like, I know we covered a lot, and if you have comments, please send them in. But in April, I like your blurry dog. So without any further ado, we will be in contact. And remember, we're not meeting in 2 weeks, we're meeting in 3 weeks. This special adjustment session for us. But we'll be determining that priority list by this new voting method at that next meeting as well. So thank you so much for all your input. Really appreciate it. And we will be in touch.
James, will you send us out a calendar reminder that for the next meeting?
Yeah, it'll be on an agenda that goes out, and you
Okay.
should have the calendar invite already.
Mm.
It's already been updated.
I had a terrible time getting on today. I was waiting for you at a quarter till, but I could not get in. It was weird. So anyway,